Hi, and welcome to our presentation on perspectives on innovative practice. This presentation is done as part of Edu7283 proposal development in the Northeastern University Doctorate of Education program. Our group consists of Greg Dart, Kevin Davis, Margaret DiLorenzo, Pam Donlin, Diane Ellison, and David Gilmore. The focus of this project was innovative practices, and specifically how individuals from various organizational settings implemented innovative practices or saw innovative practices implemented in their organization. Multiple case studies were used. Basically, individuals were interviewed in 15-minute semi-structured interviews. For someone to be included, those individuals need to be involved in innovative practices within their organization. 3 individuals were interviewed from the higher education realm, 1 from K through 12 education, 1 from an urban school district, and 1 from a healthcare practice. All of these interviews were semi-structured, about 15 minutes long. They were audio taped and transcribed. To analyze these interviews, we were looking at a general inductive analysis. Basically, through these interviews, we had a large data set. It was extensive, it was raw data, and we needed to condense it into a summary format and code it in a way that made sense and was easy to then identify findings. So, a variable-oriented cross-case analysis strategy was used in forming larger codes that were then reduced to categories and themes. That allowed us to look at data that dealt with different populations and provide beneficial information in how it dealt with the larger population and innovation specifically. Cycle coding was performed and categories were created. Themes emerged as we did this, and a description of the most important themes was composed. Those important themes then played a big part in our findings as a way to look at the data in a more clear manner. So looking at our data, there were several categories that we identified, and it's important to understand the categories as we move through the data here in the next few slides. So we had codes that dealt with administration as administrative leaders as drivers for innovation. We had codes dealing with students. We had codes that dealt with collaboration and the importance of collaboration in innovation. Codes that dealt with strategy and how the organizations went about implementing their innovations and the strategies that they undertook. And lastly, codes that dealt with results. And so looking at the results-oriented piece of our data, there were 3 themes that emerged in the first and second cycle coding. And first was the importance of people. Second, the importance of strategy. And third, the importance of process. And understanding that will be important as we now look at the data and what the data showed. So in those descriptions, you'll see several different groups of data. You'll see exemplar quotes from different studies as the data was coded. And it starts with that administrative piece. You'll see the different themes that emerged as we coded the data. On the student side, you'll see the importance of students, environment, and collaboration as well. Onto the rest of the table, you'll see also the importance of strategy, that the use of social media, for example, was a strategy for innovation. The focus on the results was important and something that we saw in several studies as well as resistance, that the aversion to new things and avoidance of failure were some of the codes that we saw within the data. The findings, there were 3 pretty clear findings. And first, the leadership vision and ongoing support played a key role in both the initial development and ongoing success of innovative practices. It was clear in many of the studies and many of the interviews that a leader or an administration was the impetus of a clear vision for an innovation. Not only that, they established the vision, but then were integral to the ongoing success of that innovative practice. The second finding that we had was that engagement and collaboration across all levels of the organization supported development and implementation of successful innovative practices. So, although these might have been spurred by leaders, or that leaders might have been important in getting them started, just as important was collaboration across all levels of the organization. And as more people got engaged in that innovation, the more likely it would be to be successful. And third, innovative practices were developed and implemented incrementally and required strategic planning at all levels of the organization. So these weren't things that happened overnight. They weren't things that one day an organization had an idea and then the next day it was implemented and there was perfect implementation of an innovative practice. They were step by step, and as building upon number two, that there was a need for strategic planning among all levels of the organization, that there was a need for engagement and collaboration in that strategic planning. So these findings were also confirmed when we looked at the deviant cases and looked at areas where innovative practices did not achieve their expected results. And so first, leadership, vision, and support, those that did not achieve may have had a top-down approach, um, but they discarded things that were important and did not look at uh, at it through the lens that we saw in that leadership and vision in our findings. Second, those that were deviant cases lacked that collaboration. They didn't know how to create buy-in, and so the engagement throughout all levels of the organization did not occur. And third, we didn't see incremental and strategic planning at all levels. These were often poor planned, and they moved too fast, and that was a negative thing. They lacked the communication that was needed to be successful. So we asked the question in those findings, so how does this relate to literature? And there was a 2004 study that looked at a partnership that was created between Johns Hopkins Medical Center and AIDS United to develop the national evaluation strategy that could build knowledge about how linkage to AIDS-related care innovations could be most effectively implemented in real-world settings. Um, they cited collaboration as a key element in ensuring the evaluation met the needs of all stakeholders. Collaboration and was important in this case and was also very important in what we found in our data. There are several areas for future research that we see. One that we think could be very beneficial is a qualitative study on employee perspectives about how input from various levels of the organization is valued by administrators. So as we talked about the importance of leadership and innovation, there's also an importance of the collaboration and how those two fit together could make a great qualitative study. Understanding how employees feel that their perspective is valued and uh, how that impacts their views on giving their perspective. And then an action research or experimental study on best collaborative practices. So we understand there's an importance for collaboration, but what are the best practices of collaboration? How do we gain that collaboration to ensure that we have what we need and that what the practice or the innovation in this case that is trying to be implemented has the best chance for success? We thank you so much for your time. We enjoyed putting this presentation together and feel like that we learned a lot and had some very substantial findings and areas for research that we have in the future. Thank you so much.